All right, what's up, everyone? Wanted to do a quick training for you today. This training is not going to be very in-depth. It is not going to be very detailed. Um, it's just going to be a quick overview of how to get started in the business. It's going to be very general. And, the reason for that is, I've created an entire course going over the fine details and everything. So it doesn't really make sense to go into the details in this training. But let me tell you first why I wanted to do this training. Something's been on my mind recently, and I've been thinking about the situation I was in when I first got into real estate and in the overage business and started trying things out. Many of you know my story. Some of you may not know my story. But if you don't, I'll just quickly share it with you real quick. So I used to work as a corrections officer. I started working at the Utah State Prison in 2014. I made $16 an hour. My monthly net take home was probably less than $2,000 a month after taxes and everything. And so you can imagine that after I pay rent, our mortgage payment at the time, which was almost $1,000, other bills, insurance, food, that there's not very much money left over, right? And so I get it. I mean, people come to me all the time saying that they want to get started in the business, they want to get started in real estate. They don't have the funds to buy a course. And so I understand that. However, there's always a way, okay? And so I kind of wanted to do this training for those that, maybe have more time than they do money. And, hopefully it will help you if you're wanting to get in this business. But here's the thing, like at the end of the day, whatever you start, if you start on a new journey, if you start a business, you want to gain a new skill, whatever it is, you're going to have to pay a price for it, okay? Either in money or in time. Those are the two currencies, time or money. And so you're going to have to pay a price. You're going to have to do the work. And so if you're looking for something that's like you need to make money in the next 2 weeks to pay your bills and to put food on the table, the overage business is not for you. It's not a good fit. It takes 3 to 4 months on average to get a deal done. Okay, so let's get that out of the way. Who is this business not for? It's not for people who need money now. It's not for people who aren't willing to do the work, who aren't willing to work hard, because although the business is simple, it is not easy. Do not confuse simplicity for ease. And so if you're not willing to do the work, if you're not willing to get out of your comfort zone, if you're not willing to talk to strangers, on the phone, cold call people, if you're not willing to do these things, this business is not for you. So that's good. We got that out of the way. But again, going back to maybe you want to get started in this business, you're willing to do the work, you're willing to do what it takes, but you just don't have the resources, and you don't want to go do something to get those resources, to invest in your education, okay? But you are willing to spend time. If you're willing to spend time, then hopefully this training will help you. So let's jump into it. How do you get started? If I can, there we go. Again, I'm not a rocket science, so you know that you don't have to be very smart to do this business either. Anyway, let's jump in. This is the overage success formula, okay? This is just something that I came up with. So it's C times 4 plus P equals $, equals money, okay? C is the 4 step. So there's 5 steps. The whole overage business can be broken down into 5 steps, okay? Step number 1 is to create leads. Step number 2 is conduct research. Step number 3 is contact leads. Step number 4 is to close leads. And step number 5 is to process claims. If you link all those together and you do each step successfully, you can make profit in this business, okay? And again, guys, I'm assuming that you have a basic understanding of what overages is. So if you don't have a basic understanding of what overages is, go to my YouTube channel and check out some of the other videos there, okay? So I'm assuming that you know what overages are, so forgive me if you don't know what overages are. If you don't know what I'm talking about, stop this video and go watch some other videos on my YouTube channel. It's the Overage Syndicate. Okay, so this is a step, right? These are the 5 steps. Again, it's simple, but obviously there's a lot there's a lot of work that goes into each step, and there's a lot of fine details. Now, again, we're not going to go over the fine details in this training, but these are the 5 steps that you need to figure out to have success in this business. So let's talk about step 1. Create leads. How do you do that? So again, overages, I deal in tax sale overages and mortgage overages. Tax sale overage is just when a property goes to tax sale and it sells to a third-party bidder for more than the taxes that were owed to the county. A mortgage, and the money that's left over from the sale is the overage. It can also be called excess proceeds, surplus funds, lots of different names. There's also mortgage overages. The difference is mortgage overages come from when a property is sold due to the homeowner not paying their mortgage payment, okay? So in this case, the lender auctions off the property, and if the property sells at auction to a third-party bidder for more than what's owed to the lender, then there's an overage there, okay? So these are tax sale and mortgage overages. And these are and I've done both of these types of deals. So how do you get your overage leads? There's a couple of different ways to do that. One is there's lists. There's lists that show you, you can go online and just Google excess proceeds list, and you'll find examples on there. And basically it'll show you that, it's like the name of the person that's entitled to the funds and then the amount that's available to recover, okay? Not all counties and not all states have lists available, okay? Especially in mortgage overages. Tax sale overages, you can usually get a list in most states and counties. Mortgage overages, there's not always a list, okay? So if there's no list available, what do you do? Well, you create your own list. How do you do that? Well, first step would be you can ask the county for a list of tax sale results, showing you what the results were from the prior tax sales. And then you compare the opening and the winning bid, subtract the opening bid from the winning bid, and that will give you your overage amount, okay? That will tell you if there's money left over. You can also track foreclosure sales. You can track tax sales. There's a lot of methods online to be able to gather this information, and you can put it in a spreadsheet, a Word doc. You can create your own list. This is something that I like to do personally, because if I am creating my own lists and I'm doing that extra work, I'm competing with less people in most cases, okay? One thing you're going to need is the prior owner name and the foreclosed property address. The reason you need their name is, one, you need to know who you're going to contact, and you're going to need the foreclosed property address because using the address, you can gather people's contact information, such as phone numbers and things of that nature. So that's step 1, create leads. Step 2 is conduct research. So one thing you need to know is, just because there's money available doesn't mean it automatically goes back to the homeowner. Lien holders have priority of the funds. What does this mean? If a property goes to a foreclosure auction, and let's say there was a second mortgage on that property, that second mortgage, that lender is entitled to any excess proceeds or overages before the homeowner is, okay? So it's good to conduct research on, say, what the debt was on the property before it sold. However, you don't have to do that. You can opt out of this step at your own risk. So let's say you get a list of overages and you start contacting people. That's fine to do. just know that if there are liens and someone comes forward and submits a claim, they're going to win over you and your client, okay, if your client is the homeowner. So this is kind of I call this the double-edged sword of overages. And the sword is, do you do your research, then contact the claimant, or do you contact the claimant and then do your research? So, and when I say research, researching the debt, researching the liens. It's also during this step that you perform skip tracing. Skip tracing is just the process of gathering contact information for someone. Okay, so how do you do that? Google, the almighty Google. But there's also websites available where you can type in a person's name and say the city that they lived in. That's why it's important to have the foreclosed property address, because if you have that information, you can use these websites, type in people's names and their address, their prior address, and you can get their phone numbers. TruePeopleSearch.com is a good example of a free resource that you can use. Moving on, step 3, contact the claimant. So you're going to reach out to the prior homeowner and, let them know that you are wanting to offer your services to help them recover this money for them. You can do this via phone, text, email, social media, letters, other methods. If you're working your local market, you can knock on doors. If you're working a market that's way far away from you, then just stick to phone, text, social media, electronic means. So this is step 3, contact the claimant. And again, you may ask, well, what are you going to say? Well, like I said, again, your services, you're offering to do all the work to recover these excess proceeds. And in exchange for that, you are wanting a percentage of the deal. So let's say there's a $50,000 overage. You contact the claimant and you offer to help them recover that money. And whatever you recover, they'll get 70%. And whatever, you'll take 30% for your work. That's just an example, okay? So in that example, if you were successful at recovering the full 50,000, you would make 15,000, 30% of 50,000. So this is the contact claimant. This is where you get in touch with people, let them know your services, and see if they're interested in moving forward. Step 4 is to close the lead. This means that basically you come to an agreement and you put it in writing. And so, you determine what your percentage split is going to be. You outline, the expectations, and, just put it in writing. You'll have like a contract. And this is also where you'll have other paperwork that you may sign. What is the paperwork you'll need? Depends on the state you live in. I have a 50-state guide in my course, and there's lots of different ways to go about helping people collect overages. But again, that's outside the scope of this course. But at a bare minimum, you'll need a fee agreement, okay? Definitely have a fee agreement in place. This is step 4. And then the final step is process claims. So once you have all the proper paperwork signed, then you submit the claim to the proper authorities, whether it's, the county, tax assessor or tax collector. Could be the county clerk of court, the court where the funds are being held. It could be the trustee or the foreclosure attorney who's handling the funds. Again, this depends on where the money is being held and in what state you live in, okay? So, but that's step 5. It's also in this step that I personally like to use the help of attorneys. And the reason I do that is because 1, they help me to leverage my time. And 2, they're able to see things that I may not be aware of. And it's almost like it's having an extra pair of eyes and to help you have a better chance of success at recovery. Most people are very afraid to hire attorneys, I guess. You should not be afraid to hire attorneys, is all I'll say on that. But this is where I'll elicit the help of an attorney is in the processing of the claim. Okay. And then if all goes well, then you profit and you get paid. Preferably, you get the check made out to your company name. Okay, it's tough when you get a check made out to the homeowner's name. So, and I talk about that also in my course. So, and that's it. So again, if you need extra help, you can go to my website, overagesyndicate.com.